What is good, everyone? I hope you are all doing well on this fantastic weekend. Today we are going to be taking a look at Call of Duty World War II, but we're going to be doing it in a bit of a different way than what I usually do, because usually I'll just go out and I'll run a game on my i7 7700K up at 5 gigahertz with the GTX 1080, RX Vega, GTX 1060, and an RX 580, and I'll call it a day, talk about ultra-wide performance and all of that. Well, I already know that this game runs well, and any of that hardware that I just mentioned, it's going to run it fantastically. I've been playing it on my 1080 Ti at 3440 by 1440 ultra-wide, maxed out, and getting about 130 to 150 FPS. So the game is optimized really well. It's fully leveraging the GPU and the CPU, and you'll see that in the performance we're going to be showing here today in the system I'm using, which is definitely on the more budget end. It's like last generation. So I wanted to go and see how well this game can run sort of on the lowest common denominator type of system. So for that purpose, I'm using the AMD system. Well, it's not a full AMD system anymore because I did swap out the GPU. But last year, this was an AMD system that I used to benchmark Battlefield 1 with the FX 8370. So that's the system I'm using here. It's got the FX 8370 in there running its stock clock speeds. It's only got 8 gigabytes of system memory, so very modest system right there off the bat. For the GPU, I opted to use my GTX 950, which is only a 2 gigabyte graphics card. I wanted to see how a 2 gigabyte card could handle this game, because if you have more VRAM, it will certainly use it. Like, it will fill up all of your video memory. I've been running it on my 1080 Ti, and it's been running at about 10.8 gigabytes of VRAM being used at any time when I'm playing the game, which is insane. I don't think I've ever seen my VRAM go that high on the 1080 Ti. It's pretty much using all of it, so that's just absolutely mental. But with a 2 gigabyte GTX 950, I was curious to see if that would hold us back at all with the performance, and happily it didn't. The game was actually just running pretty damn well. We did have some dips down below 60, but first, before we go into those numbers and talk about the averages and the 1% low on the system I was using here, let's take a look at the graphics options that I was using, because I didn't run it all the way up at ultra maxed out because I knew it wouldn't have been able to handle that. So these are the settings that I was using. Right now I'm actually on my 1080 Ti rig, but these are the exact settings that I was using when I benchmarked it. So I was playing at 1080p on a 144 hertz screen. You can max the FPS out at 250 in this game. That's the highest that you can really set it, but it really didn't matter because we weren't getting 250 FPS anyway. Spoiler alert. For FOV, I was using 90 at 1920 by 1080 native resolution. I wasn't doing anything else with the resolution, just full 1920 by 1080 full HD. For the anti-aliasing solution, I chose to use FXAA, which I thought was a pretty good middle ground as far as anti-aliasing solutions are concerned, without being too taxing and also having to disable it completely, which I could have done, but FXAA was fine and the game looked pretty good as well. For all the other options, I was pretty much running them all at normal or off or on, for the ones that do have toggles for on and off. So texture resolution was normal map resolution was, well, normal because it's normal map resolution. Specular map resolution as well was also on normal. These do all go up to like extra, but as I said, I was running it on normal, so that's like medium settings, I guess you could say. Fill remaining memory, I did have that disabled. Shader preload was also off, as I actually had some issues with that on my main system where I would time out trying to connect to the servers with that option on. It was a really weird one that thankfully got figured out and fixed, but yeah, that's a kind of a weird option. It can make you time out when trying to load into a server. Pretty weird. Anisotropic filtering also at normal. I did have shadows turned on with the shadow map resolution also at normal. Sun shadow bit depth was at normal as well. The screen space shadows I had set to auto on rather than always on. Screen space reflections, cache sun shadow maps, depth of field, screen space ambient occlusion were all off. All those 4 options I had disabled. And since that one was off, the ambient occlusion rather, since that is off, it blocks out you being able to adjust the medium distant ambient occlusion, and finally subsurface scattering, I should say, was disabled as well. So basically we're running here on medium settings with the FX 8370 and the GTX 950, and the game ran pretty damn great. We did have some dips down below 60, but for the most part, we were up over 60 frames per second, which is great, and you can also see on the FX 8370, which is an 8-core CPU. It doesn't have any hyper-threading or anything like you would expect to see on some of the 8-core Ryzen CPUs, but either way, it was fully leveraging those cores. I mean, you could see it getting spread out evenly across the entire thing, and I've seen that on my 6800K as well, on all 12 threads being utilized. I've seen it on a Ryzen system being spread out over all 16 threads. So the devs here, Sledgehammer, have actually done a really good job on the optimization for the PC port. If it is a port, I'm not sure if they developed it in parallel or not, but yeah, I think it's a port. But either way, they did a great job as far as the performance is concerned compared to some of the previous Call of Duty games. Like, I know last year's Call of Duty game was oddly capped at 90 frames per second, but the ones before that weren't. It was really weird, a really shitty port, honestly. But this time around, they've completely nailed it. The PC performance is good. You've got a ton of options in here to customize to get it to scale to your system. So I really have no complaints about this game as far as how it is running on the PC on a wide variety of hardware, as you can see here, even on a system that you could probably put together for less than $500 with a GTX 950 and an older FX 8370. So not bad at all here, and running on high-end hardware, you can expect to get even better performance and probably ramp up the settings quite a bit. So really, yeah, like I said, no issues. Couldn't be happier with the performance on this particular title. Now, the gameplay, that's, a story for another day. I'm not really the biggest fan of Call of Duty style games. I prefer to play a little bit more tactical kind of shooters, something more like an Arma, PUBG, Rainbow Six Siege, those kinds of games is what I really prefer to play. So this is not a game I plan on putting a ton of time into. I will buy the game, and when it does finally come out next month, or no, in November I should say, I will do a full performance review on the final release and everything with all of the other cards and everything to see how it's stacking up. But really, it's I'm not even sure if it's going to be entirely necessary because it's already really well optimized here in the beta phase. So just, yeah, good job to Sledgehammer Games on doing a good PC port here for us so we can actually maybe play a Call of Duty game. Let me know down in the comments below if you're thinking about picking up Call of Duty World War II now that they are back in World War II and they've done a good job on the PC port. Because one of the biggest issues that I've seen on previous Call of Duty games, they basically have no population on the PC whatsoever. Nowhere near what you would see on console. Like on console, you can load into any game mode, any time of day, and you're not going to have an issue finding a match. On the PC, that's never been the case in my experience. Usually you can only get into like team deathmatch and possibly domination, but usually team deathmatch is what people are primarily playing on the PC, and if I was going to play this on the PC, I would rather play one of the more objective modes. Like domination is fine. The new war mode is actually pretty decent. It kind of reminds me of Battlefield in a way, where you're kind of like pushing up multiple objectives. So that game mode kind of seems fun, but when the final game comes out, whether or not it'll actually have a player population on Steam remains to be seen. But if you're going to pick it up, let me know down in the comments below. And if I can find this over on CD Keys, I'll leave a link down in the description as well, where you can probably save some money. I'm not sure what they're charging for it, but I'll have a look into it, and if it's cheaper, I'll leave a link for you in the description. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here and enjoy the rest of my weekend. I hope you guys all do the same as well. If you liked this video, let me know, and leave a like if you did. And if you didn't, then I don't know what to tell you. I mean, you watched this far, so you must have liked something. So if you did, you could always hit the subscribe button. If you've been here for a while, hit the notification bell so you know whenever I'm uploading new videos on tech news, game performance, and all that stuff. So yeah, catch you guys next time. Ta-da!